Good Erev Shabbos, welcome back to Reb Yankele's podcast, Parshas Lecho. Thank you for joining me today. This week's Parsha, Reb Yankele points out, Vahi Riv ben Royei Loit. The shepherds of Loit and the shepherds of Avram Avinu were fighting. Chazal tell us why were they fighting? Because Loit's workers said, this land has been given to Avram Avinu, and therefore we can let our flock, our sheep and cattle to roam around freely. But the shepherds of Avram Avinu said, no, this land has not yet been given to Avram Avinu. It still belongs to Canaan, and therefore this is Geneva, and you're not allowed to do so. The Medrash tells us the concern here was that the people of the world will see that Avram and Lot are fighting, and therefore they will say, look at these two, even as brothers, as family, they're fighting. Roim Haim, they're bad people. Phenomenal. Avram Avinu, if someone learns of this argument, of this fight, of course they will learn that Avram Avinu is trying to save Lot from the Avera of Geneva. He's trying to convince him and his workers not to steal. Moreover, anyone who knew Avram Avinu, anyone who could possibly hear of this fight would know the famous Avram Avinu, the one that his tent is open for anyone in the world. Everyone can come in, everyone can eat, everyone can sleep. There is no one better. Yet, the concern is, the Medrash tells us the concern was, people will say, Roim Haim. Incredible. We see many times people will try to bring out a message. The Chazon Ish one time saw a father in Besmedrish when his child was making noise, and the father started screaming at his child not to make noise in shul. After davening, the Chazon Ish told his father, your child today learned two lessons. Lesson number one, there is no making noise in shul. But lesson number two, one is allowed to become angry. One is allowed to be in kas. And he followed that up by a simple question. Dear father, which one do you think he will remember more clearly? Unfortunately, as human beings, we have a tendency to remember the message that is more convenient for us. Unfortunately, the Gemara tells us one of the Amiroim 1 year had to fix something chalamoyed in his field that was a dover ha'ovid. Al pi halacha, he was allowed to fix it. And he indeed did so. And as many people saw him work in his field that chalamoyed, they followed suit. Next year, of course, he didn't even want to go into his field, so he was mafkir his field for the entire Yom Tov. But that, nobody followed him. We have a tendency to see what is convenient for us shallow human beings to see. And that's what the Medrash is telling us. Avram Avinu was concerned that despite having the name Avram Avinu, despite being known as Av HaMoin Goyim, despite being known as the Midah of Chesed, when people will see a fight, the only thing they will see, you see, you're allowed to fight. And that's a message that we need to take along with us. Of course, sometimes we think we can teach someone a lesson. We can teach ourselves a lesson. But we need to remember that if there is another side lesson that someone might learn, there is a big chance that they will only learn that second lesson. On another part of this parasha, we find Avram Avinu hears that Lot that left him, as Chazal tell us, he wanted to be near Sodom. He wanted to be near Balei Avera. Avram Avinu hears that he's in trouble. Avram Avinu immediately gets up and runs towards the fight. It's incredible. This was not a Milchemes mitzvah, but it was not even a Milchemes reshus. He never asked permission. He never got a guarantee from Hashem that this is going to succeed. And who is he going to save here? He's going to save someone who intentionally left to live with Balei Avera. We know one of the, or maybe the worst Avera a person can do is ma'abed atzmo ladas, someone who Rachmana litzlan commits suicide, someone who puts himself in a matzav of danger. Avraham Avinu went out to fight the biggest and most powerful kingdoms in the world, giving his life up to save Lot. What in the world was he thinking? But the answer, of course, comes when we see what happens to this night. What is the result of this fight? Avraham Avinu, the Av Hamoin Goyim, father of nations, father of Klal Yisrael, the one and only one to bring Hashem's name into this world for the first time in generations and creating a nation of Avnei Hashem. He knew that the only way for Klal Yisrael to survive is if we were willing to sacrifice everything to save even one of us, to save even the lowest and shallowest among us. Avraham Avinu knew that the only way Klal Yisrael will survive is if we are ready to give ourselves up to save every single Yid in Klal Yisrael. And where do we see this? We see that Hashem in turn turned this night into a night of Geula, into the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the saving of Klal Yisrael. Because this attitude, the attitude that everything is on the line for even one Yid, this is what saves Klal Yisrael. This is the ultimate Geula. And of course, now that we're standing be'ikvasa de Mashiach, waiting for Mashiach, waiting for the ultimate Geula, this is the only attitude that will bring us there, knowing and being ready to give up everything for every single Yid in Klal Yisrael. Have a wonderful Shabbos. And may we be in Yerushalayim, in the Binyan Beis Abchira, B'mheira B'yameinu Amen. Thank you for joining me today. Again, have a wonderful, joyful, and uplifting Shabbos.